Chapter 4. Cora Holbrook's Abduction. Cora Holbrook, a vivacious college student with a deep passion for history, found herself at the heart of a lively party, surrounded by her closest friends. Her life was a harmonious mix of academics and social gatherings, a balance she had mastered with ease and enjoyment. Laughter and music filled the air as she chatted animatedly with her friends, her eyes sparkling with the joy of the moment. "Guys, remember we have that big history test tomorrow?" Cora reminded her friends, her tone light yet responsible. "I need to catch some sleep and do a quick review in the morning." Her friend Jenna teased her. "Cora, the history buff, worried about a history test? That's a first." Cora laughed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Well, you never know. I just love the stories, the events, the people. It's like time traveling in my mind." As the party wound down, Cora bid her friends goodbye, assuring them she'd be fine walking back to her dorm alone. The campus was serene in the late hours, the night air crisp and inviting. She took a moment to appreciate the peaceful atmosphere, a stark contrast to the lively party she had just left. However, as she neared her dormitory, an eerie feeling crept over her. It started as a tingling sensation, like a wave of static electricity, causing the fine hairs on her arms to stand on end. The world around her started to shift, bathed in an unnatural blue light. Her familiar dormitory seemed to fade into the distance, becoming part of a surreal landscape that was both beautiful and unnerving. Frozen in place, Cora could only move her eyes, her body unresponsive to her commands. Panic rose within her as she felt her feet lift off the ground, her entire being enveloped in the blue hue. The sensation was unlike anything she had ever experienced, a mixture of fear, confusion, and a bizarre sense of detachment. As she floated higher, the darkness above seemed to swallow the world she knew, drawing her into an unknown void. Her mind raced with questions, her historian's curiosity mingling with a primal fear of the unknown. What is happening? Is this some strange dream, or reality shifting into something entirely different? She thought. The night that had begun with laughter had transformed into a mysterious journey into the unknown. Time became a meaningless concept to Cora as she remained immobilized in the alien environment. The continuous blue light that bathed her and the others created a surreal, timeless space where minutes and hours lost their distinction. She watched helplessly as more individuals appeared around her, each encased in the same paralyzing blue glow, their bodies rigid and eyes wide with fear and confusion. As the space filled, Cora realized the enormity of the situation. Hundreds, maybe thousands, had been gathered in what appeared to be a single night, though this was just the area visible to her. Directly in front of her, a man stared back, equally trapped and immobile. Their eyes met, sharing a silent acknowledgement of their bizarre and terrifying predicament. Even among the fear and uncertainty, a strange thought crossed her mind of how she felt oddly uncomfortable with the stranger's face, mere inches from hers, an absurd concern given the circumstances. A silent, internal laugh bubbled up within her at the absurdity of feeling discomfort over this trivial matter rather than the potential reality of alien abduction. To the man before her, Cora's amusement would have been imperceptible. After what felt like an eternity, Cora observed others being transported in the blue beams of light. They were all moved out of the dark, cargo-like area into a larger, more open space. Through what seemed to be windows, she caught a fleeting glimpse of Earth in the distance, a sight that was both comforting and terrifying. As she processed the scale of their abduction, a nightmarish creature floated down the rows, inspecting the captured humans with a detached curiosity. Its presence was accompanied by a harshness of noises that pained Cora's ears, a sound she assumed was some form of communication. Her eyes were helplessly drawn to the creature as it paused just 2 rows ahead. With a horrifying casualness, the creature plucked the eyes from a person's skull, consuming them with a grotesque appetite. The victim's silent scream of agony resonated within Cora, an image etched into her memory. She lay there, unable to move or avert her gaze, as the reality of her situation sank in. They were not just abductees, They were at the mercy of beings whose intentions were as alien as their appearance. The question, "What do they want with us?" echoed in her mind, a haunting refrain in the face of the unimaginable horror unfolding before her. As Cora's mind raced to find some semblance of understanding in her bizarre and terrifying situation, she recalled stories she had heard about alien abductions. Yet none of those tales resembled what she was experiencing, except for the motif of the blue light. This light, which had first seemed almost ethereal, now appeared as a sinister force, binding and controlling them. Cora watched with growing horror as rows of people, still immobilized in their blue beams, were transported away to an unknown destination. The one whose eyes had been devoured remained, a grim reminder of the creature's cruelty. As her own beam of light carried her past this chilling scene, she couldn't help but feel a wave of nausea and fear. The sight of the body, left behind as others were taken away, was a stark, haunting image. In this blue-lit purgatory, Cora's journey continued into a realm of darkness. The blue light still held her captive, but a new kind of violation began. She felt her clothes being removed, not by hands but by an invisible, invasive force. A burning sensation spread across her exposed skin, as if she were being scanned or probed by unseen technologies. Strands resembling hair or fine spider silk approached her from all directions, insidiously infiltrating her body. Some entered her mouth, others her nose, and even her eyes, leaving no part of her untouched. This violation transcended physical boundaries, assaulting her sense of self and dignity. The experience was one of absolute defilement, an intrusion that stripped away her humanity, leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable in the most profound way. And then, just as the invasion reached its peak, darkness mercifully enveloped her. In that void, Cora found a brief respite from the relentless assault on her senses and being, a fleeting escape from the unimaginable reality she had been thrust into. When consciousness returned, Cora was among others, free of the blue beam, all clad in skin-tight black suits that seemed to amplify rather than hide their vulnerability. She attempted to speak, to scream, but only garbled noises emerged. Around her, others were trapped in the same silent struggle, their voices stolen by the alien technology that now enveloped them. She could only watch what was in front of her as the newly conscripted group was herded forward and presented before a towering bat-like alien. Its wings were vast, casting ominous shadows, and a second set of arms suggested a duality of grace and brutality. The creature's eyes were a piercing red, holding Cora and the others in a gaze that promised both awe and terror. "I am General Krasthor," the demon-like entity, began to speak. Cora found herself unable to tear her eyes away. His voice filled the chamber, a deep and resonant sound that seemed to vibrate not just in the air but within her very mind. His words spoke of service and battles yet to come, painting a picture of honor and duty in serving Zahak. But to Cora, these words rang hollow, a stark contrast to the terror and violation she had just experienced. Still grappling with the shock of her abduction and the invasive transformation she had endured, a new kind of fear began to take root in Cora's heart. It was a fear of the unknown, of a future now bound to the whims of a monstrous overlord and an alien agenda beyond her comprehension. The very idea of serving in an interstellar conflict under such beings was overwhelming. Amidst these swirling thoughts and emotions, Cora realized something peculiar. Krasthor's voice, unlike the harsh sounds that had pained her ears earlier, was clear and comprehensible. She could understand his words without difficulty. This realization sparked a mix of curiosity and concern. Had they altered me in some way to facilitate this understanding? Or is there something inherently different about Krasthor's method of communication? These questions lingered in her mind, overshadowed by the more immediate fears of her new reality. Cora knew that her life had irrevocably changed, thrust into a world far beyond the boundaries of her college campus, a world where history was no longer a subject to be studied, but a brutal, living reality to be endured and survived.